three dots and you click on start recording.
3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, today I introduce you again to my good friend Joseph Dugarty. We will talk about the Jinn again. It is pleasure to have you on the channel, Joseph, again. Today we
So
wanted to talk about Iblis, Shaytan, and working with him, as well as the nature of Jinn and the painful magic and some of the things you should know before starting to work with the Jinn. So, can you tell us, Joseph, how you started working with the Jinn and how your journey to that path uh, got initiated?
well, uh, before all that, it's always an honor to come on and speak to you at this point. I don't think I'm a stranger to the channel, but yeah, man, happy to be here once again. So, how I started working with the Jinn, I always knew I had a companion, which are called Karim, and they're basically subtle suggestions that lead you in a certain direction. You hear some inner dialogue saying, "Do this" or "Do that," or leading you towards a specific path. How I started working with them, I just acknowledged what that was my personal guardian Jinn, and we began a relationship from there. Do you want
Okay.
do you want like chronological when exactly it happened or what year? It's really irrelevant, but yeah, that's it's basically you acknowledge who your Kareen is, and then you can there's some things that you could do to get in touch with your Kareen, like go into your bathroom, light a candle, and chant Haya Kareen, Haya Jinn, and yeah, that's how you can acknowledge, and the Jinn will come to bear. Your face may change through the Troxler's effect and distort a little bit, and the Jinn's face or a shadow might superimpose over your own face, and yeah, that's how you can get a visual.
Okay, so this is really interesting. So, what are the effects of your contact with the Karin? How it affected your life?
Well, it allowed me to pursue the crooked path in a way that was orthodox, so to speak. Um, a lot of times when we pursue an alternate form of spirituality, such as Satanism or demonolatry or any type of left-handed path, we don't know what it's supposed to look like at first. So we're kind of searching. We're searching for the others. We're looking around, and perhaps what we're seeing looks kind of faggoty, and it might not resonate with you. And I'm not homophobic, but it's just an expression that something is off. And early in my worship, it was certainly off. I wasn't there. I could tell I wasn't doing things properly because I wasn't having good contact. I wasn't having real transcendent experiences. But once I came in contact with my Karin and started receiving instructions, yeah, things began to fall into place more readily.
Yeah. So you really reminded me of something because I didn't work with my Karin a lot. I summoned. So what I noticed is that, contrary to the popular belief, my Karin is female. It's actually possible for male to have a female Karin and for female to have a male Karin. But in that case, Karin is forbidden from engaging into any form of sexual relationship with the human. to whom it is assigned. So it is possible to have Kareen of the opposite gender, but that Kareen is forbidden from having any sexual contact with you. And that Kareen corresponds to aspect of you which is like adversity in your life. But also, if you work with that spirit, with you work with the Kareen, it gives knowledge and guidance really quickly and really intensely. So, really good way to appease your Karin is to give him offerings. And when you give the Karin offerings, Karin will stop being a hindrance, he will stop being a burden, and he will start being a really powerful ally. So, uh, what I wanted to talk about tonight is specifically my relationship with the Iblis Shaitan.
Iblis, Shaytan. Please, please. Now you haven't. Now this is a very special episode. You guys are in for the shit. You are in for the gnosis. You could thank Demetrius for this later. Please, Demetrius, give us the story about Iblis from youngster and all the way up into the ambush and the Genic War. Please start at the.
So, this is a story I always kind of wanted to talk about. So, this entire thing started being revealed to me after I performed a really heavy path working with King Paimon. And then he told me that I should investigate the history of the Genic War and I should investigate who the Genic elders are. And Paimon gave me the name of one of the elders to continue my investigation. Well, King Paimon is actually not the same person as Iblis. He is actually the cousin of Iblis. So they are separate spirits, Paimon Shaitan and Iblis Shaitan, but they work really closely together. And so through the guidance of Paimon Shaitan, I received the initial information, and later on I received the more detailed information. So, according to the Muslim ulama, Iblis is either sixth generation of the jinn or fourth generation of the jinn, depending on which lists you watch. Some either claim that Iblis is the third generation of the jinn. However, there are much later writings which claim that Iblis is the father of all of the jinn, and therefore the latest editions are wrong. Iblis is not father of all of the jinn, and he is one of the jinn. He is one of the jinnic race, but he is not the progenitor of the race. How we know this? Because in the Quran it is said, and the all angels bowed to Adam, but Iblis didn't bow and he was of the jinn. This sentence, he was of the jinn, means that jinn already existed when the Iblis lived and is born, and therefore Iblis cannot be the father of the jinn. There are two different theories of the in the Muslim ulama regarding how the jinn originated. One is that multiple jinn are created all at once from the smokeless fire. And another is that that the jinn are descendants of John, who is father of the jinn. So many debates are present which theory is correct. In my experience, both of them are correct. All of the jinn are part of the same collective field known as the Sea of Smokeless Fire. However, they are all descendants of individual jinn, who is known as Ja'ad, father of the jinn. According to experience of many Sufis and according to the work of Nineveh Shadrach, which you can find online, John is actually aligned with what we call as the Godhead, and he serves the celestial light. But there are three of his other sons who created three genic races. Suleiman was the first Ifrit. Now, this Suleiman is not the same as the Prophet Suleiman, aka Solomon. Those are two different individuals. So Suleiman was father of Ifrits, Hassan was father of the Ghouls, and Marids had their progenitor, but I am not allowed to reveal the name publicly. So all three of them were brothers in the beginning, and they are all sons of John, father of the Jinn. But they practiced different philosophies, and for that reason, their descendants are quite different from one another. They tapped into different forms of energy. So, how all of this relates to Iblis? He is Ifrit on his father's side, and Marid on his mother's side. So he is mixed between two races of the jinn. Now, in this video, shortly, I will explain what is the difference between all of those races. So the ghouls, they live in dirty places, in dirty areas. They are extremely uh, related and connected to the necromancy and to the polluted death essence. Their duty is to recycle impure energy, and they feed off impure energy. They are sons of Hassan. Ifrits, their duty is to guard nature, especially deserts. And if you see, for example, all of those depictions of giant half human, half animal spirits you see in Arabic lore, we are usually talking about Ifrits. So Ifrits are the guardians of nature. The third species are Marids. Marids are the most powerful and difficult to control, and they live in oceans. They are the inhabitants of the oceans, and they live closely to the sea. So all three of those races have different religions, different societies, different customs, but they all stem from those elders. So Marid stem from Maridic elder, Ifrit stem from Suleiman, and Ghul stem from Hassan. They have all their elders. However, within the races of the Jinn, there is a great division in religion, philosophy, caste, and social structure. So there is some form of how I can say feud between the three Jinnic races. They do not agree with each other. So they have frequent wars, and the unseen world is pretty much a battlefield between those races. So if we would want to know which race teaches which form of magic, uh, if you want to learn magic related to death, pollution, necromancy, extremely controversial forms of psychic vampirism, you would go to ghouls. If you want to produce miracles such as levitations, teleportations, forbidden form of nature magic, if you want to master really advanced courses, amass enormous amounts of wealth, the Ifrits are the right for you. However, if you want to learn extremely advanced alchemy, and if you want to absorb the black light in the purest form, and if really form of dark theurgy connected to dark light is for you, and if you really want to obtain great secrets of Genic magic, which are highly dark and spiritual in nature, which also give great sorcerer's power, then Marids are the right race for you. If you are the person who kind of doesn't have a strict sense of moral compass, which is not ashamed of anything, and enjoys pollution and filth, then the ghouls are the race for you. If you are somebody who is deeply connected to nature, interested in miracles and wealth, as well as advanced curses, Ifrits are the right race for you. But if you are heavily interested only in spiritual alchemy and you are really prideful and egotistic and rebellious individual, and your first priority is alchemy and not anything else, and you observe power only as a manifestation of alchemical progress into the pure black light of the left-handed path, then Marids are the right race for you. Each of the three races and each of the three elders are close in power. From my experience, Maridic Elder is a little bit more powerful than the other two, but those elders are so much more powerful than spirits from other systems that it doesn't matter which elder you choose, it will catapult your ascension. So right now, when I introduced my audience to those elders, it is a time to give a story of Iblis, Shaytan. So in the beginning, all of the jinn were under the authority of John, father of the jinn, and all of the jinn were one race. They were all one species, and there was no division. They were the first inhabitants of the earth, and they inhabited the earth for tens of thousands of years before Adam was created. So the division started when the future father of the Maridic race decided to cut his connection to the Godhead. And he discovered that through condension and through experimentation upon the divine light of the Godhead, one can create the black light and use black light as a means to absorb energy and sustain himself independently from the Godhead, from the light of the Godhead, and tap into primordial aspect of the Godhead, which is the void. So the Maridic Elder is the first of the jinn who chose the left-hand path, who chose to separate himself from the creative aspect of the divine and tap into destructive aspect of the divine in order to exist independently from the divine light. After him, the ghoulish elder invented his technology of feeding, of death and decay. And the last to kind of invent his own technology was the Ifritic elder. So their descendants grew up studying those technologies, and over time, due to applying different spiritual technologies, they grew distant from each other. While John, father of the Jinn, and his later descendants remained connected to the Godhead and continued inhabiting celestial realms. Those three other genic races, which are descendants of his three older sons, actually multiplied on the earth and remained earthbound. After many thousands of years, those genic races and their elders grew apart, and the great war was waged among the jinn. And the Marids managed to win, and they managed to unify the jinn by force under their banner. So the Maridic elder started his great plan of technically attacking the Godhead and the heavenly entities, celestial jinn and the race of the angels, which will later be known as the Watchers. In that time, the Watchers were actually the angels which watched the earth, and they were still connected to the celestial Godhead. When I say celestial Godhead, I do not refer to the biblical God necessarily. I refer to the source of light which emanates life force energy, the creative aspect of the divine. So Maridi Kelder wanted to cut all of the genic races from the Godhead, and he pretty much waged the war against the Godhead in order to achieve his goal. At that point in time, the number of casualties mounted on both sides. So there were many angels who were destroyed and many jinn who were killed. And jinn, celestial jinn, and the angels patrolled one of those destroyed Maridic settlements, and they found a baby, and they brought the baby to the celestial realms. And that baby was Iblis, Shaytan, the future Iblis, Shaytan. So that Iblis was raised by the celestial entities, and he was given the name Azazel. So Azazel or Azazel is technically Iblis. It is a form of Iblis. Now, Azazel or Iblis at that time period was the great devotee of the celestial Godhead. He really studied heavenly mysteries of the celestial realms in depth, and he pretty much became the commander of the celestial. However, a Maritic elder was searching for that lost baby for a long time because Iblis was actually descendant of one of his favorite daughters who died. So uh, future Iblis was pretty much dear to the Maritic elder, despite of the fact that he was raised by the celestial Godhead and the angels. So Iblis devised a plan how to aid Jinnic war, the civil war among the Jinn. And what he did is he presented himself to the Maridic elder and wanted to go to his court under excuse of joining him again and rejoining his Jinnic family. And of course, his offer was accepted by the Maridic elder. So Iblis set an ambush, attacked Maridic elder and his court in an ambush using deception, and he killed many of the high-ranking Maridic commanders. That created the chaos within Maridic ranks, and Ghouls and Ifrits used that time to revolt against the Marids, and they actually joined the Celestial Jinn and the Watchers, which resulted in genocide of the Maridic Jinn, which is the reason why Marids are much less numerous than Ghouls or Ifrits, and why Marids do not interact with other races that much at this point of time. And from that point in time, Marids are pretty much on their own. They don't communicate with other races. Ghouls were especially bloodthirsty in the Maridic genocide. They took a really large amount of Maridic lives. For that reason, ghouls and Marids are not compatible a lot. They really don't go well together. It's difficult to work with both at the same time. It's a little bit easier to work with Marids and Ifrits at the same time, but for Marids and ghouls, that's extremely difficult. So after this time, after this event, the war was pretty much over, and Iblis received a mandate from the celestial Godhead to be the ruler of the earth. And he was the ruler of all of the jinn of the earth for a really long time. And he became ruler of all of the jinn who live on the earth. He was their judge and main authority of the celestial Godhead on the earth. However, there came a time for Iblis to relieve his mandate because the new race is going to be created, and that new race was humanity. So, technically, celestial Godhead called all of the angels and all of the celestial jinn and all of the Ifrits and all of the ghouls who decided to obey the Godhead. And all of them came upon the request of the celestial Godhead. and they bowed to the new creation of the celestial Godhead, who was Adam. Adam was that new creation, the first man. Now, there is an episode I need to point out, which is known in Sufi esoteric writings. Before Adam was animated, before he was brought into existence, Iblis possessed the empty husk of Adam and he created certain changes. So when Adam saw that what is going to be created, no, when Iblis saw that what is going to be created is not superior to him in his opinion, because he already investigated humanity before they were even animated. What Iblis did is he refused to prostrate unto Adam. He refused to relieve his mandate, to relieve his position, and to let space for humanity to live on the earth. Of course, this is not what he is going to say when you ask him. He will probably say something like, I was a true monotheist, I didn't want to bow to anybody but celestial Godhead. Or he would say that I wanted to be equal to men, I didn't want to bow to men. The truth is none of it. He
Well,
simply didn't wanted to relieve his mandate. He didn't wanted to give a territory for humans to settle. That agreement, due to Iblis's refusal to leave humans a space to settle, uh, law was put in place. And that law technically is one of the reasons why whale is created, right? Because if there was no whale, Iblis would pretty much take the living space from humanity as much as he could, right? But because the whale is in place, Iblis is not able to do it. Of course, it doesn't mean that whale is necessarily a good thing, because the existence of the whale has many backdrops for evolution of humanity in a spiritual sense. Because of the whale, we are not capable of seeing spiritual energies, which makes us actually uh, pretty much unable to spiritually evolve unless we invest enormous amounts of effort. However, Iblis actually managed to twig the deal a little bit.
well,
So
what,
he used
so,
his influence. Uh, Speak, Joseph.
so if you listen to the Godhead, his excuse for the veil is, I cast the net so ye will not fall into the abyss. So that's his excuse for the veil. And one more thing, Iblis did uphold his mandate because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to never bow to anything except me, and he didn't. So
Yeah, but like I disagree with you. I think that he simply refused to bow because he didn't wanted to give the territory to humanity. But that's another that we have different perspectives on it.
right. Uh,
So
keep going,
uh,
please
I
continue.
am here to kind of explain what I received as an order. You can disagree with me, of course. We are
No, that's
free to disagree.
yeah.
So
Please.
this, what I wanted to say is this. So Iblis managed, after he refused to bow, he technically lost many of his privileges, and he was casted into the lower worlds. He was casted into the underworld. And in the underworld, he created a specific realm for himself, which is known as Gehenna. Now, in Gehenna, he took some of the writings of the Maridic elder and he performed the experiments using those writings in order to create a specific race of the Jinn known as the Shayatin. So the Shayatin are technically, genetically, not necessarily, but they are spiritually engineered servants and soldiers of Iblis, Shaytan, who was before known as Al Harit or Azazel. So when we talk about Shayatin, we are talking about this specific type of jinn. Now, why I am saying this? So Iblis was deposed, but he still had a great deal of influence. So he managed to tweak the whale so that the jinn are capable of seeing us beyond the whale, but we are not capable of seeing them. He used the rites, many spiritual procedures in order to do that. So the question is, why would somebody work with Iblis after we know all of this? After we know that he is not the most powerful Jinn, after we know that he is not uh, the first Jinn who revolted, Maridi Kelder was the first. And after we know that he has a dislike for humanity, because the entire reason why he is casted out of the celestial realms is because he didn't want to give territory for the men to settle. He didn't want it for men to exist in the first place. If he was asked, man would never be created and the earth would belong to him. So why would in any sanity man conjure Iblis to work with him if he knows all of this information? Well, it is pretty simple. Jinn are not immortal. Jinn die. And after their death, their life force, life essence, returns to the sea of smokeless fire. And nobody knows what happens to Jinn after they die. Even the elders of the Jinnic race have debates on those questions. Regarding the mysteries of the Jinnic races, the ghouls are the ones who are capable of prolonging their life the most. Marids are the ones who have the longest natural lifespan, and Ifrits are the ones who are the least sick. They are the most resilient. They have the least amount of illnesses, of plagues, and that nature. They are the healthiest. So there is one thing we can give to the Jinn in order to truly obtain their secrets, and that is our life force energy. Why they take our life force energy? Because they need it to live longer. Our life force energy is extremely nurturing for them. So if you truly want to work with the Jinn as somebody who wants to know their secrets, you need to give them your life force energy. Now, this is where work with Iblis comes into place. He is the Jinn who is the closest to us. He is the Jinnic chief who is the closest to us. So he is the easiest to summon and come in contact with. And he will definitely be the first to approach you if you are on the path of black Jinn magic. Either him or one of his emissaries will approach. So so
So
so
what about
so
the what about the part with
I
the
for a second I lost. So for that
yeah,
reason, he is the one you should summon first because he is the easiest to conjure out of all high ranking Jinn. There is a really small probability that you will be capable of contacting the Jinnic elders before you master working with Iblis Shaytan. The only elder who is really approachable is the father of Ghouls, Hassan. He is the only one who will kind of approach people easily because Hassan really wants to work with humanity for his own reasons, but we will talk about it later. This podcast is about Iblis. So, what you need to understand if you want to conjure Iblis Shaitan is that Shaitan is not your daddy, he is not your father, he is not your friend either. He is here because he wants more life force energy in order to empower himself. And if you don't give him your life force energy, and if you are not willing to risk, he will simply give you certain things to entertain you and to keep receiving offerings from you. But in reality, you will not get anything. The only thing he is truly after is human life force energy to extend his own life. Because, contrary to the popular belief, Iblis is actually immortal. And the reason why Gehenna exists is because the entire purpose of Gehenna is to put people in those flames so that as their souls are purified, the energy rises from those flames, and then Iblis absorbs the energy and extends his own life. That's why he has a large interest in getting as much people in those realms as possible. So when you are summoning Iblis Shaitan, you are really doing a really risky thing. But it is the quickest way to obtain spiritual knowledge. Because if you are willing to do your own life force, if you are willing to make that trade, the amount you give will be the amount of the knowledge you get. Because Iblis is still obligated to respect certain laws, despite of the fact that he is a really shady character.
Mm.
If you give him your life force, he is obligated to give you actual stuff. So why somebody would summon Iblis? The answer is pretty clear because it is the quickest route to the spiritual knowledge. However, considering how shady Iblis is, it is the most dangerous route to the spiritual knowledge. There are three warnings I will give to everyone. First, do not trust everything Iblis says, question everything he says. I am not saying that everything he tells you without getting your life force energy will be incorrect. What I am saying is that everything should be questioned because it's not in his best interest to give you actual information for free. In order to get information from him, you need to give life force energy. Number two, try to reach the Jinn elders as quickly as possible because they are more powerful than Iblis and they are less tricky than Iblis. However, magic they teach is much more secretive and difficult to learn. And the advice three regarding work with Iblis is never under any circumstances make any pact with this guy. Because that's a recipe for something which will not end well for you.
Well, that's based on an individual basis. You might have had a bad experience. I might have had a bad experience, but that
So let
we
me tell you
can't.
something. Since I started treating Iblis in this manner, so when I ask him for something, I give my life force energy to obtain the knowledge.
Mm,
I do not bow to him. I do not treat him as a daddy or as a
mm,
god. I do not think he is my friend.
mm.
Since I started working him in this way, I received much more knowledge, much more money, and much more benefits.
Yes,
This is, in my personal experience, the only way to have functional relationship with Iblis Shaitan. Uh,
correct.
if if that's my experience. There is a
No, you're
period
right.
in my life when I saw him and his kings, him and his jinns. as gods. I worshipped those beings. I prayed to them. I made pacts with them. I treated them as higher than myself. But I never gave them my life force energy in a deepest sense. And it was a really ineffective, magically speaking, period in my life.
Mhm.
So, my advice to everyone is that those jinn who serve under Iblis, you can have a beneficial relationship with them. You can obtain knowledge, you can get shit done, you can spiritually evolve. It's not questionable. I am not saying that working with those beings is not beneficial. What I am saying is that those beings are not motivated by altruism. They are motivated by self interest. They are pretty much etheric form of humanity, and they are as selfish as the humans are. So they shouldn't be approached as daddies. They shouldn't be approached as altruistic friends. Because if you work with Shayatin this way, you will either only receive surface level magic or get screwed over at the end.
The advice that you're
Majority
giving,
of,
the advice
yeah.
that you're giving everyone is dead on, and very valuable. You're saving people that do want to work with Iblis a lot of time. But I will say, if you do offer your loyalty and a portion of your life force essence, he will teach you good shit. He will teach you how to survive in the wilderness, hypothetical war scenarios. If the grid goes down, he'll teach you how to hunt. He'll teach you martial sciences. He will teach you astral assassination. He'll teach you how to kill from a distance. So he can teach you really potent shit. But like you said, the price is he's not giving you something for nothing in any manner. But and it is in the way that you approach him. If you approach him like you're a worshiper, he's going to treat you like a dog. But until you until you become wise until to the dynamics of the relationship between you and him, yeah, it's a learning experience. So yeah, you're correct. You're saving people a lot of time.
So
By,
here is the thing.
Mhm.
Uh, if you want to save time, once you develop sufficient astral senses to perceive the gem, what you first need to do is you, as Joseph Dougherty said, need to develop relationship with your Karin. When you develop relationship with your Karin, you can use technique given by my friend Joseph Dougherty. Then ask your Karin how to summon Iblis. And then once you learned how to summon Iblis, do not go around, right? Do not ask him, do not pelt him with offerings. Do not offer him any prayers or hymns. Do not waste your time by erecting temples and other nonsense. Simply ask him this: are you Iblis? Yes, you are Iblis Shaitan. How many life force of mine I need to give in order to obtain so and so? And is obtaining so and so possible? And since Iblis is not some form of a, I don't know, deity, some form of a god, he is much more knowledgeable than humans and many other quote unquote gods from many other pantheons, and he's much more powerful. But of course, even his power has limitations, okay? There are certain things he is not capable of doing, okay? So he will straight out tell you, can he do something or cannot he do something? And then if he can do what you ask of him, then tell him how many life force energy he needs. He will tell you, and then you offer him your life force energy. Now, there is one really big misconception, in my personal opinion, and that misconception is that your substitute for life force energy is equally accepted as life force energy. So if you sacrifice a cat or a dog or a goat or a oxen or whatever, or even if you sacrifice another human being, in the eyes of the jinn, that's not substitute for your life force energy. There is no bigger gift to them than your life force. The blood of the sorcerer and the astral energy of the sorcerer is the offering no other offering can replace. So if you call them every time and offer them your life force energy every time after every ritual, not only will you be taught enormous amounts of knowledge, but it will be actual practical stuff nobody can deny. Because once you offer your life force energy by the laws of the universe, which even Iblis cannot break, it doesn't matter how much he is the fan of breaking the rules, you will get the actual. The only thing you need to make sure is that you need to make a contact with an actual Iblis. A lot of Shayateen and some of the Ifrits will pose as Iblis in order to get life force energy from humans. That's why it is important to recognize and have a relationship with your Karin first before reaching out to Iblis Shaitan, because Karin will recognize Iblis and he will recognize the imposter.
Correct. Another thing that you do not want to do with Iblis, even though just like Demetrius said, he is or he was Azazel at one time, and technically Azazel and Iblis exist separate at the same time. Do not approach Iblis and call him Azazel. That
Yeah,
is incredibly offensive to him. That's a way for him to fuck you up. So
yeah, they are actually separate beings now. So Azazel is a mix of the aspect of Iblis and one of the Watchers. So Azazel is comprised of one of the Watchers and the aspect of Iblis. And also there is a specific form of Azazel known as the Goat King, or the King of the Seirim, the King of the Goat Demons, which teaches advanced forms of sex magic, but that's story for another time. So can you tell the audience how to build up relationship with the Karim?
your cutting is always with you. It's as simple as talking to your Kareem throughout the day, whatever you're doing. Just ask your Kareem, what should I do about this? What do you think about this person? Do you think this girl's cheating on me? Or, do you think this person's fucking me over? Just treat it like it's your best friend, your brother, because it is. It's been with you since you were born, and it will be with you until you die. That Kareen is actually bound to you, and you are its assignment. And so I had asked you before, if is there a way I could give offerings to my Kareen, and you came with a pretty profound answer. So you don't pay a soldier that's already being paid. So yeah, you don't have to give your Kareen any offerings. Um, you can leave out food if you wish, but not necessary. Not necessary. Your Kareem is there for a purpose, to guide you along the crooked path, to help you become better at magic, to facilitate relationships with other jinn, and so forth. Demetrius, you left out one part of the story that is pretty important about the super weapon made out of the black light.
That. So I don't honestly know should we say it to the public, but we should. So technically, in the Genic War, the Maritic Elder made some form of a, how I can say, he made some form of a way, some form of a technology to transmute black light in such a way which creates an extremely powerful magical techniques. And this is, I was never taught it. I was only introduced to the concept of it. That the essence of all of black magic is technically directing the black light onto target. Right? So there is a way of directing pure black light onto this reality, which alters the world in a way which we cannot even comprehend. I left it out. And Marits, Ghouls, and Ifrits, and their elders, and even Iblis, they can teach this technology. However, the Marids are the most skilled. So, in my personal opinion, you should work with your Karin, develop relationship heavily, make your Karin help you to open up your astral senses. And then after you are sufficiently ready, approach Iblis Shaytan, learn under Iblis carefully for a time. And then after you're skilled enough, approach Paimon Shaitan to introduce you to the elders. Paimon Shaitan is actually Paimon from the Goetia. Uh, so that's my advice.
Your Kareem can also identify imposters. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, if you're in ritual and you think that you might not be dealing with the spirit that you summon, you can ask your Kareem. If you don't have very attuned astral senses, you can use other forms of divination to communicate with your Kareem, such as a pendulum. Um, I've seen techniques to divine yes or no answers from cigarettes, flipping a coin, um, shit like that. But yeah, your Kareem can also identify imposter spirits.
Yeah. So, Joseph, can you tell us one of the methods of evoking Iblis Shaitan?
So one of the methods for evoking Iblis is using the simple chant found on your channel, Haya Shaitan, Haya Iblis, Haya Jinn, while burning pieces of the Quran. Use the chant Haya Shaitan, Haya Iblis, Haya Jinn, while you're burning pieces of the Quran. That, to me, is the most effective way to get Iblis's attention. Or even if you're just thinking about contacting Iblis, draw Iblis's name in Arabic, put on a piece of paper, cardboard, anything, put it in your pocket, and he'll just show up. I've had him just show up multiple times.
So, I performed this method of evocation of Iblis only once. Uh, but this is like a full formula he gave me. So first you prepare the fire. You prepare the fire, and then you put the sheet and the raw meat into the fire. Then you put the Quran into the fire to burn. Then you recite the Surah Al-Fatiha backwards. Then you recite the Quranic Ruqya in its entirety backwards. And then you start conjuring Iblis through the chant you mentioned. And he will come in a really powerful way.
However, in order for you to perceive the Genic King, you need to be capable of seeing them, and that's the training you need to do with your Karim. That's obtained through the training with the Karim. And in future videos, in future podcasts, you and I will give to the audience detailed instruction on working with the Karim.
Or we could even do demonstration. So we could do a video demonstration. We were talking about recording courses coming up soon. So
Yeah, yeah,
keep
Yeah.
listening for details about the courses.
So regarding courses, it's in preparation, but we definitely need to publish some information to the public for free in order to be principled. Okay, because
Absolutely.
the goal of this channel is to give a spiritual knowledge of initiatory nature for free. So
The
on this channel, I am not giving to you the deepest secrets. I am giving you simple information you need to know to start working with those spirits.
but it's extremely valuable. They have to realize what they're getting. Just in this podcast alone, you received information that you cannot get anywhere, and it's not in any other books. Trust me, I've
Yeah, it is in the books, but those books are
what?
not translated to English. So
Oh, okay. Well, nothing I've seen as far as Iblis's childhood, all of that was complete news to me before you had told me about it. So
okay, so is there, because we kind of discussed a lot on this podcast, it was more like a podcast dedicated to Iblis and how to work with him and how to summon him. If you are developed psychically, if you are capable of feeling and seeing spirits, you can use evocation method presented in this video to summon him without any issues. And many other people did the same. So, is there anything, Joseph, you want to say to close this podcast?
no, I'm good.
And
Don't.
there is one more thing. Wait a minute.
Uh,
There is one more thing I need to say to the audience. So there is a really dangerous, really powerful way of working with the Jinn. A relatively weak beginner can do this with success, but the right is risky. The right is traumatizing. So the only thing you have to be able to is to feel spirits in a basic manner. So you summon a bliss through the method we already gave you. It is relatively easy to find Quran. If you don't have the Quran, the evocation method I presented will still work, but it will not work as effectively. It will not be as intense. You summon Iblis through provided method in a sacred space. How you can raise the sacred space is you visualize the black sun above your head, penetrating the edges of what you consider the end of your sacred space until you literally feel the rays of black light radiating from the edges of the circle. That's how you create a black space. How you also create a sacred space is you draw a circle, and then in that drawn circle you write down the names of Allah, but you write them all reversed. So you invert them and you write them upside down. And you do this visualization of the black sun above your head penetrating the edges of the circle until you feel the rays of the black sun radiating from the circle. If you cannot draw a circle for whatever reasons, method can work without a circle too. What you should do is you summon Iblis in the sacred space according to the prescribed method. And then when he arrives, you will tell him that you want to merge with one of his Shayatin, one of his Jinn, and Iblis will immediately assign to you a spirit who will partially possess you. And he will be able to co inhabit your body together with you for a long time whenever that spirit wants to do it. There are three aspects of this. Spirit is forbidden from harming you, spirit is forbidden from cursing you, and the task of this spirit is to make you more capable of doing magic and being attuned to the other gen. However, there is dangerous parts to this. Relatively a new beginner, if he has psychic abilities, can do this. But the problem is if you ever try to exorcise the gen, or if you ever try to break out of the work with Iblis without knowing how to actually get rid of the gen, you will have issues. You will have problems. The gen will turn on you. So that's something I need to say.
So another way that was given to me to erect your sphere of influence or your sacred space is, like Demetrius said, in the same manner that you would draw an astral pentagram for the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, you just draw a large circle in the air with your forefingers and simply step through that circle and picture the bubble closing behind you when you step through the circle. You have a sealed sphere of influence. Then, like Demetrius said, you could draw Allah on there backwards, and yeah. Also, another thing is don't be discouraged uh, from working with Iblis. He is cutthroat, he is shrewd, but he gets shit done. Period.
Yeah, and he opens you up to the spiritual world quicker than majority of other spirits. So if you are willing to risk, if you are willing to win, if you are willing to triumph, I invite you to start working with the Karin after the end of this video. And if you have psychic abilities developed, I invite you to use this technique to work with Iblis. We introduced you to many useful techniques how to work with Iblis, and this is information which is not found online as far as I know before this video. So, yeah, thank you for being here with us, my dear friend Joseph Dougherty, and it is a
Oh,
pleasure to talk to you.
thank you, Demetrius. I will speak to you soon, brother. To the dear faithful audience, thank you for checking this podcast out, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, talk
Out.
talk to you soon.